Hi, my name is Deborah Sharp, and I'm here to talk with you about taking your practice online. Few of us expected that we would all be trying to explore this rather suddenly in the spring of 2020, but here we are. And so what I'd like to do is to go over some of the questions that people have submitted about taking their practice online and use those questions as a way of structuring talking about making this work for people. The first question is, what is a telehealth agreement and what should I include? You should have received 3 samples. The general guidelines sent out by the ISIG, the Internet Special Interest Group of the American Group Psychotherapy Association, my own telehealth agreement for my private practice groups that I co-facilitate, and the telehealth agreement and instructions for my conflict management and dispute resolutions office at UT. Hopefully that last one will be helpful to those of you who are in an agency setting to think about what to include. The second question is, how should I set up my space to offer telehealth, and what do I do about kids and pets, either the clients or mine? Well, not everyone has access to the same kind of space, and that will be true for our clients as well as ourselves. So I'm going to describe an ideal, but clearly not all of us will be able to achieve the ideal. So it'll give us a framework from which to vary. Several points. Ideal is to work from either top with a built-in camera, desktop cam. Headphones or earbuds, wireless or wired in, are best for several reasons. They improve the quality of the audio and can help block out some of the background noise in your environment. They can increase confidentiality also by ensuring that your part of the conversation is the only thing that could be overheard if that were to happen. It's completely possible to operate from your phone, but the picture is not as large, and that may affect your ability to pick up cues from expressions or your client's ability to pick up cues from your expression. So I don't recommend working from a phone if you have another option. Light your face in whatever way is available to you. If it's possible to face a window with good natural light, that works well. Otherwise, try to have a lamp or a clip light shining either on your face or, better yet, reflecting the light off a white wall. That way the light won't be shining in your eyes. If you have a choice of light bulbs, use white light. Try not to have the only light be either above you or, worse yet, behind you. This will cause you to be silhouetted and clients won't be able to see your face at all. You can also suggest this to your clients, that they try to find some way to get some light on their face so that you can see their expression. Another thing to think about is to be aware of your background. You may have particular artwork that you would like to be visible, or plants perhaps, but be aware that whatever you have in the background will be self-disclosure to some degree. So some prefer a simple background with low distractions, such as what you see behind me. It's also good to have a simple background, white or even a green screen, to make it easier to use a virtual background if you want to do that. You can find the virtual background by clicking the caret beside the video button in the bottom left of the screen. You can use the options included in Zoom, or you can add a photograph of your own to use as a background. Some of the members of my group use their virtual background in the same way that they might wear a t-shirt that had a saying on it. They don't use words, but they use pictures that convey a mood. And so that can be a fun addition and a new way of communicating. Maybe not yourself, but your clients may want to play with that. Try to plan ahead for the needs of your kids or your pets. For instance, if there's not another adult in the house to respond to the children's needs, make age-appropriate arrangements for their entertainment or engagement or their study before you start your meeting. Make sure your dog doesn't need to go out and that pets are on the correct side of whatever door they need to be on. For instance, my dog will go absolutely nuts and start screaming maniacally if she's not on the same side of the door that I am. So I try to make sure that she's always in the room with me. With all the best laid plans, we can also practice, I hope, some self-compassion and compassion for our family members who are also likely to be stressed and confused. And if your child, your dog, cat, iguana, whatever you have, bursts into the room and interrupts your session, I hope it doesn't happen, but it might. And if it does, excuse yourself for a moment, attend to the immediate need, apologize to the client, and ask about what that was like for them. They may immediately return to the narrative that was in progress, but it's still a good idea to give them an opportunity to process it. There may be times when you have to respond to an emergency and you can't continue the session. We had someone ask a question earlier or tell a story about their son being hurt on a bicycle, and while they were in session, and clearly they had to respond to their son who was hurt. And so they ended the session with the client, and then of course they would have called back later and talked over with the client what had happened, and make decisions about, you know, whether you're going to charge them for that session or whether you want to reschedule, or exactly what feels right to the two of you to do. On a related note, when my client asks about my health in this age of COVID, I don't try to investigate the reasons for the question. I answer them briefly and accurately. I say, I'm well. Thank you for asking. Because we're all sharing this trauma, and it would be more dysregulating to pretend like the pandemic is not a real event affecting all of us. Others may have different opinions, but that's how I'm handling inquiries into my health right now. Let's see, another question is how to resonate with clients in the same room. Well, when I started seeing clients via Zoom, I was concerned that I wouldn't be able to resonate with them if we weren't in the same room. But then I realized that I cry at movies all the time, and that I often had resonant emotional experiences when talking to people on the phone. And when I attended to what I was feeling during sessions and spoke about it with clients, they would confirm that we were in sync with each other emotionally. Even those of us who sometimes work from a somatic experiencing framework can modify our usual way of practicing to incorporate bodily sensations. The main difference will be the requirement to put everything into words, which actually helps with the development of an observing ego and may develop more emotional tolerance for our clients. So, you know, an unexpected side effect of needing to work in this way and having to put everything into words is that is what I just said, that it might actually help your clients develop a little bit more emotional tolerance. The next question is, are there any differences in style that I need to keep in mind with telecounseling? Yes, there are. In answering the previous question, I mentioned the need to put things into words that you might normally indicate through eye contact, body language, or other nonverbal communication. I find myself being slightly more active than I might normally be, and encouraging clients to also put more into words. I've also found that people seem to feel more free to express strong emotion when they're on Zoom. I don't know if that's universal, but it's certainly my experience. The mediated contact itself, I think, is insulating. It's been especially interesting in working with couples. I've found that if it's possible for them to be in separate rooms on different computers, it's resulted in some breakthroughs for some of the couples that I work with. So I've been surprised about that. That's been a surprising benefit. Let's question is, what should I do if the internet crashes or one of our bandwidths is insufficient? Well, the problem of bandwidth or other disturbance in electronic connection is a common difficulty, and there's no way to 100% prevent it, of course. Be sure that you are clear with your clients, either verbally or in your telehealth agreement, who will call whom back if the internet connection can't be maintained. I recommend the practice that you will call the client back if the connection breaks. A trick that seems to work well if the problem is bandwidth is to mute both of you on Zoom and then call each other directly via telephone. Have you call the client. That way you'll be able to continue to speak even if the system or the screen freezes. So you can maintain some level of video contact because it will unfreeze after a moment, but you can continue to have your audio connection the whole time. And that provides less frustration about the quality of the Zoom connection and usually provides a better result. The next question has to do with high-risk clients. So what about high-risk clients or suicidality? Be sure to ask and write down the address where the client is speaking from. If they are quarantined at home and remain there, we hope, all of us, you won't need the address every time, but you do need to confirm if they are speaking to you from home each time you talk to them. For homes with the possibility of domestic violence, you might suggest that the client go for a walk and talk by phone only if that's possible. And also, if possible, set up a safety word that the client can use to tell you that they're in danger, or another word that they can let you know that they cannot safely speak. Again, these are ideals, and during this difficult time, clients in abusive situations are at very high risk. Many shelters are still operating, and some clinicians are choosing to call for intervention during this time where they might not have done so in the past. Safety planning with clients is very important and can include how to keep themselves safe from COVID while keeping themselves safe in other ways. Well, let's see, the next. Oh, well, the question is, can you run groups on Zoom? Yes, absolutely, you can run groups on Zoom. I was a member of an online training process group for several years and came to love the format. You may not love it, but it is absolutely possible to run groups on Zoom or to convert the groups you're already running to Zoom for the duration. Several things to keep in mind, in addition to the things I've already mentioned about putting more things into words, about being more active, about encouraging clients to put more things into words. I would also add asking members to identify who they are looking at, if it's meaningful to them, and to identify who they're talking to when they're speaking. And to keep in mind that you may see more expressions of strong emotions in your group during this time, partially because members are under a lot of stress, and partially because the format allows an additional layer of insulation. This may have the reverse effect, especially for a newer group or for a shorter term group. It may be hard for your group to achieve cohesion because of the mediating effect of the platform. And finally, if you have members who tend to dissociate in your group, be particularly aware that this format makes it easier to do that. It makes it easier to check out and watch other members on screen as though it's a TV show. In the short term, you will see a lot of differences. In the longer term, people will come to accommodate just as we're coming to accommodate. But sometimes you don't have a long time. In the psychoeducational groups that we run on campus, Zoom has been a wonderful format for providing content and for having breakout rooms for exercise. As we demonstrated in today's Zoom training, you may need to have more people involved in running the groups. For instance, having someone whose only role is to monitor participants, manage the chat functions, or you may want to have a facilitator available. Okay, we only have 3 more questions, so thank you for sticking with me this far and hang in there till the very end. What do I do about eye contact? That's a great question. Unfortunately, you really can't make eye contact on Zoom because, for instance, if I'm looking straight into the camera, it may seem that I'm making eye contact with you. You may experience it that way, but I can't see you. And I don't like that any more than you do. But if you use the elevated camera, as I suggested, and another tip is to turn off your own self view, because it's really distracting to have a mirror in front of you, you know, to be seeing yourself all the time. So it's sometimes helpful to attend more to your client and to attend more to the people in your group if you turn off your own self view. You remember that you also need to tell people in a group setting when at them. Or when you're in an individual session, you can emphasize the fact that you are looking at them in a circumstance by saying, I don't know, something like, I'm looking at your face, I see tears. Helping people know that even though we're not having the same experience of eye contact, that doesn't mean we're not looking at them and paying close attention to them. Oh, I love this question. Why am I so tired? Well, there's a number of reasons why you might be feeling very tired right now. The most obvious, of course, is that we're all living through an extraordinary time of uncertainty and loss. So I'm likening it to working after a personal loss. It's reasonable to think that you would not be operating at 100%. You might only be operating at 80%. I hope that you will be kind to yourself, that you'll take breaks, that you'll say no to anything that you can, to allow yourself some space, to allow yourself some rest. Another reason why you might be tired, though, comes from staring at a screen all day. It fatigues your eyes and your brain. You're managing emotions and technology at the same time. Also, you are staring into white light all day, which is very stimulating for your brain. That, combined with the overall stress and change in routines and familiar activity, might also be impacting your sleep. So try to log off or walk away from your computer to give your brain a rest throughout the day, and it may help you to not feel quite so tired. And the last question is, what if it turns out that I really hate this, or what if I love it and never want to go back? Well, if you really hate it, you can always fall back on the more familiar telephone until the shutdown ends. But although we may be seeing around using online platforms more regularly and having face-to-face interactions be more rare. But if you love it and never want to go back, then that culture change might be really good news for you. I've certainly found that there are a lot of things to love about not fighting traffic, about not adding to air pollution, and even some things about this medium that I particularly like with groups and couples. I hope that today's presentation has been helpful to you, and I appreciate your time and your attention. Thank you so much for being with us.